Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sully Squad. Tons and tons to get into tonight. Jalen Hurts gets the bag. Philadelphia Phillies, hopefully with a turning point win, I would say.
Yeah.
Or as you would say, a Turner moment, right?
Yeah.
Game 2 of the Sixers versus the Nets. I think a lot of us out here are probably feeling like it's not going to be much of a series, but still got to play the games, and we got a big game tonight. So we're going to get into all of that here. We're going to actually have 2 special guests. We got, in a few moments, we're going to have Mike Gill from 97.3 ESPN hopping on. He does a great job on the Sports Bash every day from 2 to 6. And then a little later on, we're going to have former Philly and current radio analyst Kevin Stocker. We'll be discussing some Phillies a little later. So we're going to get right into it here. Big, like I said, big day here in Philadelphia. I got my usual cast minus my man Diego, who's actually at the game. And I sent him an invite. We're going to see if maybe we could get some atmosphere from the Wells Fargo Center down there. So anyway, got the usual cast here minus Diego. Got my man Sean to my left.
What's up, fellas? What's up, John?
How you doing? I got up in the top corner. I got my man Euro Paul rocking the what's that? What is that? Is that an Embiid t-shirt?
Yeah, Embiid.
All right, there we go.
Yep.
And then I got my man on the bottom that always brings the energy. My man Mike Fuji. What's that? It looks like a Sixers John, right?
Yes, sir. What's going on? Mike Gill in the house. Kevin Stocker, the Philly General, gets paid 10 days of the draft. Game 2 tonight. How's everybody doing? Let's get this party rocking tonight. Let's go, fellas. This city is rocking right now. The General is just ready to come out and throw 50 touchdowns next season. I'm ready. How about you?
I was as ready as you, brother.
I was born ready, man. And I'll tell you. So
Damn straight.
So we see Hurts obviously gets the bag here. Or as we say in the headline, he rakes in the dough. The man gets 5 years, $255 million, $179 million guaranteed. I think I read he gets like $64 million through 2024. And
no trade clause.
Yeah, no trade clause. And I was listening to Mike Gill's show today on the 97.3, and I think it was John McMullen was saying basically it's funny how you see a contract this big, and you can kind of say it's a little team friendly. Which if you really think about it, I mean, the fact that Hurts signed before Burrow and before Justin Herbert, I think,
and Lamar.
And Lamar Jackson, I think it could turn out. It's up to Howie now to build the team around them. So what were your guys' reactions? Paul, I'll start with you. What was your reaction? I mean, are you happy with this news, or I know some people out there were kind of saying, oh, I kind of would have liked to have waited. What's your opinion?
Waited for what, though? The only thing is, he had a career year last year, breaking out party for him. If he repeats it again next year, then that money he got today is going to be way more, and especially when Burrow and them sign too. So I think it's like you said, like a team friendly deal. Gives us so flexibility getting the key players that we need around him. Replace the ones that we lost. I think it's the right thing to do right now to sign him, and the key I think is a no trade clause too, because now he's guaranteed to be here for the next 5 years. So I think it's good that he did it right away and not wait.
I totally agree. And Mike, I'll get your perspective, but I totally agree with Nikki Cunningham right here. She says in 3 years, Hurts will be considered cheap. Totally agree. And to keep it 100, it might even be shorter than 3 years, because you get Burrow signed, you get Herbert signed, Lamar Jackson possibly, and all of a sudden Hurts having the highest AAV of $51 million, he could go to third or fourth. You know what I'm saying? So, Fuge, what was your thoughts, bro?
Oh, it's about time. I mean, the deal had to get done, and Jalen answered. A lot of people wrote Jalen Hurts off last year. Jalen Hurts took the bull by the horns, answered the bell, got this team to the Super Bowl. This team was one stop away from winning Super Bowl 57. I mean, they got it done. I mean, who knows what Herbert, as you just to piggyback off you guys, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow. I mean, it's like the next contract up. I mean, Jalen's $51 million right now, right above Aaron Rodgers, and I'm sure the next three guys will get more. So it's like, it's just the next step up for the next guy, QB in the NFL. I mean, the man was the undisputed MVP. He got hurt. Of course, they gave it to Mahomes. You know what? Jalen Hurts is going to beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And I'm going to predict a couple times because this man just brought himself, and he's the Philly general. This man owns this town. He deserves it, and he got paid. Howie and Jeff broke out the Brinks truck and gave it to him. Well deserved, up and down the line.
Right, and also it shows you, after the first year, he has some weaknesses, and you see that he actually improved and worked on that in the offseason. Yeah. So he has heart, and he wants to compete and win, and that unlike Carson Wentz. So seeing that and how he improved, I think it's great.
Totally agree. What was you probably kind of have a similar feel?
They both hit right off the bat with everything that I agree with. He's a competitor. He proved a lot of the critics wrong. He can't throw. He's not this. He's not that. But what did he do? He worked it in the offseason, and look where it got us, the Super Bowl. And I see many playoffs and even more, like Fuji said, possible Super Bowl appearances. Just his way of his character and him being an athlete.
Yeah, and I got a comment here from our man Pat Bernard. He says, "Hey fellas, what's up, happening, homies? What's up, Pat? How you doing,
what's up, Pat?
What's up, man?"
And I was on, when this came out, I mean, I think, I was at work, so obviously I couldn't be on the phone too much, but I think a lot of us were on the, I checked out the phone, and I believe it was Jeremy Fowler put on Twitter, like what a 5-year turnaround for Jalen Hurts. I mean, you figure this man was benched in the championship game versus Georgia.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He transfers to Oklahoma as Heisman runner-up, comes in as a second-round pick. He's supposed to be a backup. And then next thing you know, he's the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League, biggest contract in NFL history. I mean, it's quite a story. You know what I mean?
He proves his critics wrong.
But hey, anyway though, without further ado, we have our man Mike Gill here from 97.3. So let's get Mike's perspective on this. Hang on one second here. Hey, Mike, how are you, man? It's you're on with the Sully squad. I'm Joe, and that's Paul, Futhi, and my man Sean. How are you?
What's up, boys? How you doing?
Good.
Good, Mike. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I hope I'm coming all right in the car here. But what a day, man! Jalen Hurts. Who would have thunk it?
Came out of nowhere. It's how he pulls these moves out of the air.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when they made this pick a couple of years ago, I remember battling on the air with my co-host at the time. He hated the pick. Now, I can't sit here and say I thought that he was going to turn into this player. There's no way. But I had no problem with the pick because the Eagles value the backup quarterback more than they do their starting safety for this reason. They felt that they could get value out of the backup quarterback in another way, whether they traded him off, traded somebody off. So I had no idea that this guy was going to be this player, but this is why they invest in quarterbacks so highly in the draft.
Okay.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of that, I mean, I know at the time they said quote unquote backup quarterback, but don't you kind of think that maybe there was some, because if you remember the rumblings with the Josina Anderson and the Alshon Jeffrey and all, like, don't you think, I know they paid Carson, but don't you think part of it may have possibly been, hey, you know what, we kind of want to cover our butt here because we're not 100% sure of this guy's character?
There's no question. Yeah, they had stuff inside the organization that they had known before we knew it. And, there was that article from Joe Santoliquito at the time that everyone was bashing him for writing this article. And it was like, well, maybe there is some murmurs inside that locker room that we're not fully aware of. turns out a lot of that stuff was true. You know, I'm no Wentz hater by any stretch of the imagination. I feel bad for the kid. I feel like and this is going to be questioned. Well, I had people texting my show all day today. Did the Eagles panic? Did they have to give him this deal now? They did it to Hurts. It didn't work out. They gave the money to Hurts. He ended up getting hurt. Wentz, excuse me. He ended up getting hurt. We have no idea what kind of player Carson Wentz would have been had he not got hurt. But I think what we do know is those injuries piled up on him, and he was not a good enough leader to overcome the injuries that people wanted to play for him. He struggled. His play on the field struggled, and he was not a relatable guy. And these were the downfalls of him. So just because the Eagles identified Wentz years ago and it didn't work out, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't have worked out had he stayed healthy. And that's why I think the Eagles had no problem doing this deal. And I'll say this, they paid him $255 million today. They're going to be paying him $400 million 6 years from now, because they're going to have to do this deal again.
Yeah, I mean, his contract's going to be up at 30. You're right. I mean, his contract's going to be up at 31 years old. You know what I mean? I mean, you figure and he's probably, I was listening to your show today. I think it was, what was it? John McMullen was saying, like, he's probably going to see every penny of this contract,
no question.
As long as he doesn't get hurt,
As long as he doesn't get hurt, look at the progression he made from one year to the next. What's to not think he's not going to make another huge jump? Because everything we think about this guy is that he works his ass off. He works harder than everybody else. That's why he got this contract, and that's why we should believe he's going to get another one, because he's only going to get better. I mean, to not think that he's going to improve would be to think that this guy is going to rest on his laurels and just give up everything that he has done to get to this point. No, why he has this contract is because he outworks everybody. He has a complete belief of that locker room. And again, he took a deal that I think is a win-win for him and the team, knowing that I'm going to get another deal 5-6 years from now. Because he is playing, keep this in mind, he is playing this year at $4 million or whatever he's getting paid. They didn't rip his deal up and start it over. He's playing this year on his rookie deal so that the team can try to win this year.
Mike, do you see, as far as this big contract Jalen Hurts just got today, him freeing up a lot of money to restructure his deal to keep guys down the line, like, maybe Lane Johnson in 2 years if he decides not to retire, and, free agency and so on?
Well, I mean, look, 2 years from now, one thing the quarterback market is out of hand. I mean, Daniel Jones does not deserve $40 million. That's just the world we live in. Yeah. The Eagles have a quarterback. John McMullen, I did his show this summer, and he said to me, if Jalen Hurts has the same year he did in 2021, you're going to have to pay him $25 million. And I said, you've got to be out of your mind to think about paying Jalen Hurts $25 million. Well, now he's getting $50 million. The caveat is, guys, you have to have – it's an organizational thing. You have to understand and have faith that your general manager has a plan for 2 years down the road. And I don't think gives out that contract not knowing how to tiptoe around it. You don't give out that deal if you think it's going to hamstring you. He has to know 2 years down the road, this is what I have coming up. Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, what's going to go on with Dallas Goedert? What happens with Devonta Smith? The other guys, linebacker, safety, corner, they're not worried about that. It's the key guys of how can I make this contract fit 2 years down the road? So they don't give this contract out today if they don't have a plan for 2 years down the road, to answer your question. They already are figuring out, how am I going to untangle this web when the real money kicks in?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Big time.
I got a question for you, Mike. Now with Jalen Hurts situation all finished. With the draft coming up, what do you think the Eagles focus on with the 10th and 30th pick?
Well, we all know they love to go line, D-line, offensive line. So there's two ways of thinking about this. The quarterback just got signed to a huge deal. Do I look to make sure that I have another offensive lineman to protect them? Because, quite frankly, Isaac Seumalo is a really good player for this team.
Yeah.
But just like we talked about, they can't sign the right guard because they feel like they can find another one at a cheaper price because I have to pay my quarterback. You don't really have a right guard right now. Cam Jurgens, everybody thinks, can just walk in and play right guard. He doesn't play right guard. So we just assume. So I have to think Peter Skolowski is very, very possible. And then if Jalen Carter happens to fall, do they want to do something to move up to get him? If he's at number 8, number 9, do I make a move to try to move up a spot or two? I think Nolan Smith would be in play. Everyone's talking about Bijan Robinson. I don't see that happening. But if they got a call, here's what you need to have happen for Bijan Robinson to happen. You need a quarterback to be on the board at number 10.
Yeah.
And if there's a quarterback on the board at number 10 and someone behind you says, I got to get to that spot, that's your chance to go back and then get a skill player. But if they stay at 10, I can't see that happening. So I would think Skronsky is very possible. And then if Jalen Carter falls, or the defense, Lucas Van Ness, Nolan Smith. The problem I have, I don't think Smith or Van Ness, I think 10's too high for both of those guys, in my opinion. But those would be the ways I see them going.
Yeah, especially Van Ness really. I mean, they both concern me. I mean, Van Ness really concerns me because he looks like one of them workout warrior type guys to me, and that scares me. You know what I mean? Because he didn't even really start in Iowa, and now all of a sudden this guy's going to come in the NFL. You know that.
Well,
that really
I will say, in Iowa, they do have. He didn't start there because they had seniors in front of him, and they kind of like as a favor to. They do that a lot there. He got starting snaps. I agree. I'm not a huge fan of Van Ness in terms of taking him at number 10. Now, if I got him at 17, 18, now I can start thinking about that. But at number 10, I think it's a little bit of a reach. Miles Murphy's another guy that I kind of like, but I think at 10, it's a little too high. I think all of these ends worry me a little bit because Nolan Smith's a guy that I like a lot. Not the most productive player at Georgia. You know, never had more than 4 sacks in a season, but 4-3 off the edge. Can you pair him up with Hassan Reddick and just go after the quarterback from both sides? They need right now. They've got Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick. Other than that, we got Derek Barnett. Do they have enough depth at that defensive end position? So that to me has to be a place that they target. That's why I think they may sit at 10 and find that extra rotational guy because Brandon Graham, you would have to think, either A, he has a drop-off, or B, this is his last year. So that's an area, to go back to your draft question, where I think that these pass rushers, even though I don't love them at 10, that they would probably consider them there.
What do you think of a tight end? Because you mentioned, we were talking about some guys they signed a couple years ago, and you mentioned Dallas Goedert, and I kind of think it's kind of ironic because if you remember, Goddard is exactly the same, I think, years of service and age of Ertz was when we drafted Goddard. And I'm kind of thinking maybe around that 30th pick or even the second round, second or third round, I'm wondering if they would consider looking at one of these young tight ends.
Tight end's a deep position in this draft. So that's a good point. Especially if you remember when they got, they had that pick 32, I guess it was, a couple of years ago. And what did they do? They traded with Baltimore. Baltimore ended up getting Lamar Jackson, and the Eagles went into the second round. That could be something that I think is highly probable here. Is it at 30? They try to move back because they have no third, no fourth, they are basically out of picks after 62.
So how do they do that? That 30 pick, that's another spot
if there's a quarterback on the board like a Hendon Hooker that somebody really, really likes, that's when you start to get calls at number 30, and then you can make your move to try to get a tight end in that second round. But yeah, I think a tight end would definitely be in play because right now, what do you got? Calcaterra and Stoll are the two guys coming back right now.
Right.
So I think tight end, and it's a very good tight end class. So this is definitely a spot. I wouldn't think at 30, but you have 62, and then the possibility that somebody wants 30, they move into that 30 spot, and you move back and get extra pay. I don't know, like the mock draft that Kuiper put up the other day, that to me is a home run. Seattle says we want Hendon Hooker because we don't trust Smith long term. We have a developmental quarterback that we want for 5 years to get that extra year. They have 2 second-round picks. That to me is a home run situation.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah,
Definitely.
I would love that move.
Yeah.
I get one comment here from our man Pat Bernard. He says, Mike, looking down the road, looking at the Union and Phillies going from being contenders to now being bottom feeders, do you have that worry for the Eagles?
No, and I'll tell you why. One, the offense is intact. And look, no one is talking about Kansas City winning the Super Bowl because they had this fantastic defense. They won because their offense was, Patrick Mahomes, and they basically outscored the Eagles. The Eagles' defense might not be what it was, but they're going to have an offense that's going to continue to score points. So, no, and the NFC, look, things change in football so fast, but right now, with the moves that have been made, the NFC is still wide open. You probably have the best quarterback in the NFC, entering the season. So when I have that quarterback in this offense and the fact that the NFC is down, no, I don't see a bottom out. Now, the schedule is going to be more difficult. I'll give you that. So, hey, it's an injury game. It's an injury. The Eagles last year remained healthy for most of the season. And with that, they had a special year. So you got to assume that that's not going to happen again. But I just don't know where are there teams that are double-digit win teams in the NFC? I don't see a lot.
Yeah, I see maybe
Agreed.
Dallas, San Francisco,
Dallas,
maybe Seattle gets better, but who knows? You know what I mean?
I've been accused of being way too pro Dallas, but they're very talented. They're always the most talented bunch. They just, they've had a lot of injury issues. I think the coaching staff has let them down over the years, but Dallas is going to be in the mix. San Francisco will be in the mix. Seattle's interesting. Look, I went to West Virginia. I love Geno, but he's got to show me again that he can do that again. What he did this year was off the chart, but they've drafted very well. I think they'll be solid, but I don't know that that's a 10 to 11 win team. The Giants still waiting to see their next move. The quarterback, I think, holds them back. Washington still needs a quarterback. I think Minnesota, they're probably going to release Cook. They might take a step back this year. They won 13 games last year, and nobody believed in them. What have they done so far this offseason to make you change your mind on them? Probably not enough. So Green Bay is going to probably, they're going to lose Rodgers. I think Detroit's an interesting team, but if I'm talking about Detroit, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
They're up and coming. Man.
They were on the outside locking in last season, making the playoffs. Down the stretch.
When Philadelphia played them in week 1, everyone was like, oh, you barely beat Detroit. And it was like, look, I think this Detroit team is going to be a team where they were very good offensively that week in week 1. Their defense was a disaster early in the year. Their defense got better, and I think they've improved their defense this offseason. But, if Detroit is one of the 4 or 5 teams we're talking about, I think Philadelphia is still in the mix. So to go back to the guy's question, I don't – is he talking about the Phillies this year, by the way? Are they bottomed out already?
I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's kind. I mean,
Well, it's early. They're off to a bad start, but the sky's falling in week 3. So
yeah,
April baseball.
Yeah,
They're 3 games. They're 3 games behind the Pirates. If that guy thinks the Pirates have longevity, all right, I'll give it to him.
Yeah, well, hey, Mike, I really appreciate your time. Real quick, let's get to a team real fast that's playing right now. Any worries about this series? I mean, any game 2 predictions? I'm kind of feeling Sixers in a gentleman's sweep, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I tweeted out on Saturday before the game, to make a deep playoff run, 5 things. Embiid has to be another level Embiid, 35 points a game. Need very, very good James Harden. You got that in game 2. You need a third scorer every night. Harris, Maxey, one of those 2 guys. You got that. I talked about this on my show 2 weeks ago. There are 82 game players, and then there's 16 game players. Yeah. PJ Tucker was in cruise control all season long. Playoff PJ is a different PJ. It's like getting a trade acquisition. Yeah, that level of player is something they didn't have in the past. And then you need, obviously, the bench guys. Paul Reed specifically played. That position has been an albatross. So I think the Sixers, look, they shot 48% from 3. That's not going to happen. The Nets shot 45% from 3 and lost by 20.
Yeah.
If the Nets win a game, I'd be not shocked, but I think the Sixers will. I think they'll probably win handily again tonight. And Embiid probably. They're going to try to do something different. They doubled him this time. I think they'll try to get the ball out of Harden's hand early, and then they'll get smashed down. So you might not see a record number of threes, but Embiid probably, he probably has a big game today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and let's just hope that the Sixers can dispose of these guys nice and early so they can rest up for Boston, because that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Is got to beat the Celtics this time.
Yeah, and I can't have Game 5 up against the NFL Draft next Thursday.
I know,
exactly.
they did that to us last year. Last year, Game 6 in Toronto was the same thing. I looked at the schedule. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man.
Yeah, they got stuck last year up against the draft. And look, the Eagles have picked 10 and 30. I got to be locked in on that. I don't want to have to be switching back and forth. So you got to finish this series and make sure it doesn't go 6.
I hear you, man. But
no doubt.
Yeah, but listen, Mike, I really appreciate your time, man. Big fan of your show. And, why don't you – I think most people know who you are, but if you want to just give a shout out, where you're at and everything like that.
Yeah, you can catch me 2 to 6 on 97.3 ESPN. We're the South Jersey ESPN affiliate, Atlantic City. We pretty much, we reach all 8 South Jersey counties, Delaware, Maryland. We are the home of the Sixers, the Flyers, and the Eagles. So when you're down the shore, that's where you can check us out. And yeah, I'm actually getting ready to coach a baseball game tonight. So I'm over here getting ready to pull some strings, baseball style,
Okay.
Right.
Hopefully you have more success than Thompson's had so far. Hopefully he turns it around. You know what I'm saying?
They'll be fine.
I know. I got you. Yeah, no more Apache. But hey, man, thanks a lot for your time and appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem, boys.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, that was fun. But,
great stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know. I'm like, yo, hopefully he got more success than Thompson. Rob Thompson, I don't know. I think that Christian Patchy guy has pictures on him. I want to ask Kevin Stocker.
Pictures.
Did Thompson
maybe pictures
in the off season or something? Jeez. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Especially benching Marsh. I mean,
yeah,
that's a head scratcher.
I got you. Well, hey, we'll speaking of the Phillies, we have former player and radio analyst Kevin Stocker ready to hop on with us. So hang on, let me just put him on here. Hey, Kevin, how are you, man? You're on with the Sully squad. How are you today?
Cold, really cold.
What's up?
Good.
What's up, Doc? Thanks for coming on.
You got it. You betcha.
Yeah, appreciate your time, and yeah, it's funny. I mean, here it's nice and warm, and I know from experience. Like I went out to a Notre Dame game in like November, and that Midwest cold is like on a whole other level. It's like it's crazy, but yeah, man. So just wondering, the Phillies have been struggling so far, but they had a big win yesterday. Do you think that could possibly be a turning point?
I hope so. I've said that once before. It's not their only blowout, right? So every time they seem to get this good win, we keep saying, "Oh, it's going to be a turning point," and then they, kind of go back to their ways that they have been. So you look at it as, yes, it's early. Unfortunately, they've dug a hole, right? 6 games back already, which is, they've done that before. So that's not a great way to start. The good thing is there's so many veterans on this team. Nobody does, they don't panic. They're still enjoying themselves. Believe it or not, they're upset with how they're going. But it was really good to see Nola throw yesterday, and then we'll be able to come back. The Phillies come back with Wheeler. So those two guys, I think, are really starting to right the ship. They have really started to improve. It's really important, at least I found back in the day, it's super important to have a couple guys on your staff that when you show up at the ballpark that day, you are really saying to yourself, today's a win day. You truly feel like you're going to win. With some of the injuries the Phillies have had, I'm not sure they've completely said that, especially after some of the losses that they had. So that's a long answer to the question. I'm really hopeful that it's a turning point, that they can be a lot more competitive. At the same point, it helps that they're playing the White Sox, who have, believe it or not, a worse bullpen right now than the Phillies do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd feel a lot better if we had some of your old teammates, like a Kurt Schilling or a Tommy Green, go in one of these games,
I know. I hear you. I hear you saying.
But yeah, it's so let's hope, like you said, the White Sox have been struggling. How concerned should we be? You brought up the pitchers, the bullpen. I mean, are we, is this going to be a major concern going forward with all the innings that these guys are logging?
Not yet, because I don't want you guys to get too concerned yet. I do think I'll put you on I'll put you on alert. How about that? Right. So
Okay.
Just because it's so early, we're 15 games in. I will tell you, this is just my opinion, is with the World Baseball Classic, the Phillies had the most guys out of camp. Okay. They're going to tell, I know that those guys, they're too competitive to ever say, "Oh no, I didn't have enough time." They're going to say, "No, I was fine. I had enough time." I'm sorry. I just don't think they did. When we were in spring training, looking at the bullpen, I did 13, 14 games down there. The bullpen guys came in and threw great, right? I mean, they were, Sir Anthony was great. You saw these guys. Soto, when he got there, he was late getting there. Kimbrel was great. The issue that I had was that when they came in, they would always come in with nobody on base when the minor league guys were in the game in the 5th or 6th inning. They would come in, mop up really quick, and then they would get out. Then all of a sudden the team went to Texas, and now they're coming in with 2 guys on first and third. It's a whole different scenario, right?
Right.
It can't, and because so many guys were gone at the World Baseball Classic, there were so many minor league guys. It was kind of challenging for Rob Thompson to find situations to press the guys. So I think they came out of spring. I just don't think, 1, they had enough innings pitched, and 2, I don't think they were pressed in spring training. So they're starting to get there now, unfortunately, because of all the innings. So to your question, yeah, they've thrown too many innings. That's why it was big that Taijuan Walker went 6 innings the other day. That was huge. Nola got into the 6th, and I think Wheeler's going to have to try to get into the 6th as well, if not more than that, to try to give these guys a little bit of a break. And then those guys in the bullpen just have to start stepping up. At some point, they're going to start, but they better get it going.
Hey, as far as go ahead, Paul.
No, I have a question with Nola, right? Because he didn't sign, he didn't come with an agreement. Do you think he's out of here at the end of the year, or do you think there comes an agreement?
I hope not. No. I don't think he's out of here. That happens a lot. You get the numbers, you get the agents. Some agents are real hardcore, and it's really difficult to try to. This is just my opinion. I think it's difficult to. Once spring training starts, the athlete, I will tell you, the athlete's mind is really not on the contract. And I didn't say that well. It's probably on the contract too much, and they don't want it on that, right? So they're just like, look, I got to play. Let's just be done. That's how I would have done it. So I do not think that he's out of here. I think he's a part of the Phillies. I really do. I don't think he's done. I think he's a great pitcher. He just had a really tough start. Again, not a lot of innings.
Okay. Kev, do you think the pitch clock has an effect on the starting pitching as far as getting acclimated this early in the season?
Well, yeah. First, I got to say this: we got in trouble for saying pitch clock, so it's pitch timer, right? Oh, for crying out loud! It's just crazy. I'm like, who cares? Everybody knows what it is. But to your point, is it? It depends. It depends on who you're talking to. So, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler are notoriously guys that control the game.
Mhm.
Okay, that's how they haven't been in the league. They weren't in the league back in the 90s, maybe early 2000s when the game moved along. So they're notoriously guys that work kind of slower, especially with guys on base. But if you flip-flop, look at Taijuan Walker. That guy, he doesn't give us enough time to do our broadcasts. He's so fast. He loves to work quick. Scherzer works quick. Certain guys work quick. I do think that this is me. I do think that Aaron is still trying to get used to it with guys on base. Okay, so I think he's feeling that when a guy gets on first and second, he's feeling like he needs to think a little bit more, and he's not getting that time. They've got to figure something out, they being the league, because I do think it's a little bit quick. JT, with some of the pitchers, if not all, he's calling the game. The guys don't have enough time to shake off, right? So how do you, if you don't want to throw a curve, how do you shake off and get it? I think that is a hard thing for the pitchers to get, and I think it's very fair. In other words, what I mean by that, I think it is a concern. And Major League Baseball, at some point, probably not this year, they're going to have to maybe address that. Maybe it's an extra 3 seconds. I don't know what it is. At least for those two guys. But at the same time, there are other guys that love it because they want to work fast. It fits right into their mold. Does that make sense? I do think
perfect sense.
Yeah, I think the pitchers are going to have to adjust. I get it. I get that they don't like it. I get certain guys I like to work slow. I don't get it. My answer to that is there's guys in the minor leagues that are really good pitchers that probably love it, and they would love to be here. And I know that sounds really bad, but doggone it. I mean, the games, we were doing games in LA last year. You guys were probably asleep. It was 4 hours and 15 minutes. I mean, that's not workable.
Mhm.
So not by a fan, not by a 13-year-old kid. It just isn't. So adjustments will need to be made for sure.
Hey, how many stolen? You were talking about the pitch timer, like you said, but the other big rule change was the throwing over to first. Like how many stolen bases do you think you could have in this league right now?
Ooh, man. Well, it's not. That's a really good question. I would say, first of all, it is making a difference for sure.
Mhm.
The fact that they have to throw over there and that sort of thing, that's making a difference. Not only with how the pitchers pitch, but guys, their success rate is way up. The attempts aren't drastically higher. There is some, but they're not but the success rate's way higher. Where I'm seeing it, looking at the numbers, is from second to third, nobody's getting thrown out. So if you're a guy, that can steal third base, that likes to do that, we don't have anybody right now that's doing it, but we need to, because the success rate there, at one point, like 10 games into the season, nobody had been thrown out at third. JT has no chance, right? And this is my opinion why. And I like to steal bases in the minor leagues more than the big leagues because I was an 8 hitter, so I couldn't really go. But imagine being on second base and you take your lead and you're a runner and you see Aaron Nola take a stretch. You have to remember, not only does Aaron look at the pitch clock, 4, 3, 2, the runner's seeing it. So if I'm back there and I see it going 3, 2, I'm just going to start to go, because Aaron then either has to disengage.
It's like a race.
So yeah, I think some of the guys are working that. I would try to work that. Yeah. So again, I do think the bases are definitely having an effect on stolen base success rate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised a guy that can steal. You're on second base and there's one out. If you have a chance to go, my God, if you get to third with one out, that's a way to get a really cheap run.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think it's cheap. I think it's hard earned.
Yeah, no, I hear. Yeah,
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a part of the game that Major League Baseball wanted to bring back. So it's working, right? I mean, that's when I watch a game now. Like I didn't work the games. Larry was working the games at home, and so my wife and I would sit there and watch some of the game. I got to tell you, there's more action. I don't know if you guys see it or not, but like Bryson Stott the other day, who's doing great, but defensively, he made like 3 plays to his left, a couple to his right. It's fun to watch him make those plays. And with the shift, I mean, that was never going to happen, right? So I love that fact. I like the guys running. And so I think it is working overall. I think the goal was to create more action. That is certainly working. Not everybody is happy, but that's how we are right now.
Kev, can you see like more fundamentals possibly coming back with this pitch timer? I mean, why not drop a bunt down third base? I mean, if the runner on first is going to get a jump, why not?
Yeah, there's going to be some of that. I don't think you're going to see I don't think you're going to see sacrifice bunts. I think you'll see guys drop them for base hits more than anything.
Right.
And the reason is because the analytics still are saying, hey, if you get a guy, good example the other day, this actually happened. So the other day, I think the Phillies went into extra innings and they put a guy on second. Pache was leading off, who's still kind of figuring out his stroke. And you go, well, do you bunt Pache or do you let him swing? And the reason that you don't is you got to look at what's going on in your bullpen. Do you have somebody that can come out if you tie it? Right? So you're the home team. Usually in the past, what you would do is you would play at home, you'd play for a tie and try to get an extra inning. Okay. But now with all the pitchers, you use so much of your bullpen. The Phillies have used a ton. They may not have a guy to go another inning. And we don't want to see Josh Harrison again. So then all of a sudden you go, well, let's not do the bunt. And more teams are just, let's just take 3 hacks. I think it's a fair question. I think that you and I need to watch that and see if guys start to bring more bunting back. I just think it's going to be base hit bunts. I don't think you'll see sack bunts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point about the pitching, because you see a lot of fans criticize stuff like that. And when you think about it, I mean, a baseball season is such a marathon, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, the manager knows better than the common fan, you know, like the manager knows if a guy's got a sore shoulder or sore arm, and you know, and that, you know, like you said, that plays a lot into the decision. But, you know, I have up there Stott. I mean, you know, like he's got this amazing hitting streak. I mean, you know, you watch the team every day. I mean, and it looked like he was improving as the season went on last year. Like, did you see this in him?
Well, if you look at his numbers, definitely through the minor leagues. You know, last year, obviously after the All-Star break, he started to pick it up. He got a little gassed toward the end, which everybody does. Getting used to that and all the attention takes some time. I thought I saw this in him. I don't know that I saw him as a leadoff guy, and I still don't know if that's where he'll stay. You know, he only has 1 walk, I think, on the year. So it's not like, I mean, he's getting his hits, but eventually he won't. So it'd be nice if he could take more pitches. But I did see Stott as a good, solid hitter in the big leagues. The question was just where was he going to hit? And I'm not sure I ever saw him as a leadoff guy, but I think he was going to hit. And he, you know, his on-base percentages all the way through college at UNLV and through the minor leagues were off the chart. He had a couple of years that were 450, 460. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, he had some really good on-base years. So that tells me he can hit. He can bunt a little bit, which I think adds a part. He did that the other night, which was really cool. So back to that bunting, right, for a base hit. So it's fun to see him do that. I also think it helps that he's got a position. You know, last year, if you guys remember, him and Bohm came out of spring training and they were competing for third base. And so now he's set. He's just got a year under his belt. He's more confident. I mean, this might sound stupid, but like when he comes here to Chicago, he knows where to go to get to the clubhouse. I mean, that stuff, that little stuff does matter, believe it or not, to a young kid. So, yeah, he's doing great.
I have a question. How do you feel about the talk about when Harper comes back, you know, being in the first baseman?
Interesting.
That spot.
Well, some guys have done it. I talked about it the other night. I mean, Ernie Banks moved over there from shortstop, played like another 7-8 years at first, got an all-star. Right. I think Stan Musial did it. I mean, I think Bryce is a good enough athlete to be fine over there. The thing is, he's still not going to be able to throw really well. So if he gets a ball, I don't think, I mean, I don't know, you know, that sort of thing, but it gives them another option. It gives the Phils another late inning option. If they had to keep him in there, they can throw him at first base. And I think he would do just fine. He's going to do as good as Hoskins did. I mean, Reese was getting better and better and better. And really, honestly, he was getting to be, I thought, one of the better first basemen. Don't laugh at me, but he was getting there. I mean, I think Harper could probably do it fine, you know, for a little while. I don't know he could do it every day. So the other thing, I'll be honest with you guys, they were talking about, you know, they're concerned about him sliding.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I did hear about this morning.
Because it's all with the elbow and if you slide and that sort of thing. Well, if you're at first base, you dive, right? So, you know, it's still up in the air, but I think he could do it. I think he could definitely do it.
Well, there was a report this morning and said that Bryce Harper said he was going to try to slide on his other leg.
Yeah, I think that's true.
To avoid the elbow, you know.
Yep. 100% true.
As you were saying, me and Mike Schmidt in the twilight of his career moved over to first base in the mid-'80s for a couple years.
Okay. I mean, Bohm's over there now. I'll be honest with you. I'd much rather have Bohm over at third. He's doing a fine job, but he's still learning the position. He's not. I don't think he's quite as I don't know the right word, but maybe his feet aren't quite as quick, I don't think, as maybe Harper's is going to be. He's a little taller, he's got a little bit better reach, but I think it could certainly work. It gives them another option for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen,
Kevin, Sport.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you quick about the timetable with Ranger Suarez coming back shortly.
Yeah. He's he was scheduled to throw tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to happen now with the doubleheader. So I can tell you that the Phillies really need him.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that.
Right.
They sure need Ranger. And when he comes back, I think the Phillies need him at full strength. So if there's a question that he's not quite there, I would give him another week. Don't rush it back. Maybe if it was in August or something, but give it another week and get him back here for at least May. I was looking at some numbers of teams. See if I can word this right. My notes aren't in front of me, but there were 3 or 4 teams that started the year 6-10, and I should to say that they had 10 losses after like a really good year, after like going to the pennant. Those teams then, when some of these teams went on to win the World Series, like there was a Pirates team, a Braves team, 6-10. Those guys by mid-May were 500.
Yeah.
Okay, so my mind is if this team can get things right the ship, and at least by the 20th of May or something like that, get to 500, then it's workable. Now, last year, I think they were worse than that. They had such a great June, right? So that's what I'm looking at. And I think Ranger will be back in plenty of time to help them get there. So he's supposed to throw tomorrow, and I think Harper was supposed to take live batting practice off of him. So that'd be huge for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, to piggyback off your point, I think the Braves won 101 games last year. I think at one point they were like 24-27. You know what I mean?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Oh.
So you don't want to wait too long. I mean, nobody wants that. But,
Yeah. What was that? What was that saying? You can't win a pennant in April, but in April or May. But if you fall too far behind, you could lose one, right?
Absolutely, you can.
No.
And you're not going to get Hoskins back till way late, and maybe they can get back. Oh gosh, he just had his thumb done, right? They can get him back.
Derek
We'll see. Yeah, thank you. Get Derek back. Maybe in a couple months if he's able to swing. So that was a big blow. I mean, Reese was a huge blow, but then losing Derek.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So I mean, Clemens is great, but he's just really not a first baseman. And then you have to move Bohm, and guys are a little out of position. Sosa's great. He looks really good. I'm not sure though that he's an everyday guy, and that's the issue. So they're just guys out of position. It'd be nice to get a few pieces back in where they're comfortable.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame for the kid and Derek. It's a shame for Derek Hall too, because this was his chance. This was his opportunity to grab the bull by the horns and really put up some good numbers and make a name for himself.
Yeah, I still think he's going to play a big role somehow. He'll be back.
Are we going to see Painter by chance?
If you do, it'll be late. I mean, I think he just started throwing, and if anything, they will. I mean, completely take forever with him. That's what teams do now. And so I really don't have a good update for you on that if we'll see him this year, but it would be late if we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Kevin, I really appreciate your time, man. And, like I got to tell you, that 93 team was like, I know the Phillies won in 2008 and they made the World Series a few other times, but that 93 team, I was 15. That was like my favorite. And I started watching baseball in 86. And the Phillies were not good until that 93 team. So I appreciate what you guys did, because that was like to this day, that was my favorite team. That was my favorite Phillies team of all time. I love watching you guys.
Oh, you guys are great. That was so great. The team is still very close. Everybody, we have, our text streams, and we try to get together. We see just about everybody at fantasy camp. That's kind of our reunion time. And so, I mean, as much as we were close, I think as a team, we certainly felt close to the fans. That's what made it so special. Then that was my first year. I just figured it was like that everywhere we went until I went to Tampa.
Right.
So that was totally. And then I realized what it was. What it was.
The
like.
91 Dodgers 7-6 win with you guys is memorable for you because you played all 20 innings.
That's right. Yeah. That my first game in the big leagues was 20 innings long. Yeah, I got caught. It was funny. The game went 20 innings. I don't know if I told you guys this. We win. I was 0 for 6. I had like a great play to save the game. I had an error, a bunt. I mean, a little bit of everything. I didn't get my hit though. So I go in. It's like 1:30 in the morning. Kruk says, "Great game," and we're taking off our stuff.
Right.
And I get a tap on my shoulder, and it was Dennis Mankey, and he said, "Get a bat and get your tail into the manager's office right now. And I'm like, I'm in a t-shirt and underwear and flip-flops. So I grab a bat, I go into there, and it's Jim Fregosi, it's Larry Boa, and Dennis Mankey, the hitting guy. And they're all in t-shirts, flip-flops, and underwear because the game was just got over. And I get the bat on my shoulder, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" They're like, "You're and they're literally putting me in a new stance because they had seen me in spring training and then hadn't seen me for 3 months. And I had a couple of chances to win the game and ground it out. So they made all these adjustments, and I'm like, okay, this is great. So the next day I came in, I worked with Mankey on some new stuff that I got out of whack. And then I got my first base hit and home run. I got my first home run off of Rod Beck that day.
Right.
And then I went on a tear. The first one went on a tear. So I learned real quick, like when you get called up, and this is the same, like McKinley Moore came up and he just got sent out. Marte was there. When you get called up, it's not easy. It's sometimes it's easy to get there and hard to stay there, but you got to be ready. Like from day one, you got to be ready to go. And that was I was one of those guys that learned quickly. I'm like, okay, that's how it's going to be. So, but yeah, that was my first game. We had 20 innings and we won that game. So that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You came up for Juan Bell in the 1993 video. Lenny Dykstra said, "We knew Stock knew how to play the game." His exact words in that video.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Lenny. Those guys got to know me in spring training because I was invited in.
Right.
And I got to know them. So then in spring training, after like 2 weeks, I was a non-roster invited in. I was 20. I just turned 23 at the time. So then I go back down to AAA or down to the minor league camp. And literally every day or every other day, I'd come in, there'd be a sticky note in my locker, and it would say, "Go to the big league parks." I'd get in my car, I'd go to Jack Russell to sit on the bench for the game, which was great because I got in, but I also got in like 4 brawls. I'm like, who brawls in spring training, right? So I'm not kidding you. We're in St. Louis, and boom, somebody I'm like, what do I do? I didn't know what to do. So I got to learn the personality of them, and they got to learn me. So when I got called up, it was an easy transition. They knew what they were getting, and I knew what I was getting myself into. So it was great.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, listen. Hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate your time, and go Phils.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right. See you later, guys. Take care.
Thanks. Have a good one.
See you. That was fun. I love those stories of like reminiscing,
I had to throw that in there,
especially
like, with the
about
20
those old teams,
like, You don't hear that. Like him going into a batting cage at 1:30 in the morning with the coach.
Right.
You don't, but yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to fire that in from High Hopes. That's exactly what Lenny Dykstra said. When they brought Stocker up, the guy stepped right in.
You know what's funny? When he first said that story, I thought it was gonna be like a story where they were just like fucking with him. You know what I mean? Like Dennis Mankey's like, go in there with your bat, and then they're all sitting there in like their sandals, and then they're like, what the hell are you doing, dude? We just got done playing 20 innings. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that's what he was gonna say. You know what I mean?
Right.
But anyway, yeah, you know what? Before we get out of here, let's get into the Sixers game a little bit more. But before we do, let me give a shout out to our sponsors here. All right. So anybody out there with some legal problems, like Kevin just said, if you're in a brawl, that 93 team was out there brawling. Well, let me tell you something. If you're out there brawling somewhere and you get in trouble, make sure you call my man David R. Cherry Esquire up at 610-565-0300. He's workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, or criminal law. www.cherryinjurylaw.com. So he got you covered on your legal troubles. Really good bar down Delco, dolansbar.com. It's at 24 East Sellers Avenue, Ridley Park, PA 19078. They got Quizzo and music and great times, memorabilia giveaway. So you want to have a couple pops, have a good time, check out some good scenery, go down and check it out. Be out there looking for some tickets. I know my man Diego's down at the Sixers game tonight. So you could do sporting events, concerts, theater. www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. You could save 10% off the promo code EOP10. You know what, Mike? I should let Mike Fuji read this one, because Mike Fuji, when I think of Philly sports trips, I think of my man Fuji, because I know you went to at least 2 or 3 of them Johns last year, didn't you, Mike?
Not only am I the
Yeah, went to Washington, went to Houston.
Yeah.
Vince Rizzuto's the best in the business. I mean, second to none, top class. Everybody check out phillysports.com. He's partners with Anthony Gargano with the trips to Italy. What do you got here? You got the Philadelphia Union trip to Denver, May 15th. The ultimate draft party to Kansas City. I mean, you can't go wrong with Vince and Philly sports trips.
Yeah, well, if you're trying to do Kansas City, better hop on that going quick, because that's coming up soon.
Right.
Yeah.
Highly recommend Philly sports trips. As I said, the best in the business.
Yeah, and Paul and I got to do opening day with Mike, and Mike knows, because that opening day setup, your boy had a great opening day setup. So if if you're touting Philly sports trips, what your buddy had going on with that RV or whatever, that was a great time. So it's the real deal. Here we go right here. Here's Edge of Philly Sports lineup. As you can see, there's something for everybody. You got lacrosse shows. I know my man Pat's doing a great job of covering the Wings, and all lacrosse all the time. They do a great job. Of course, all the shows here. Wednesday night, you got Big Al and Joey. You got Matty B does a great job on Fighting's Final. I think Pat and Mike do that as well, and Al. And check it out. And of course, you got the Union. My man Diego, who's not with us tonight, he's doing a great job of covering the Union with Gus and Austin. So make sure you check it out. Something for everybody. So, all right. Before we get out of here, let's do our predictions here for I kind of have. Let me tell you what my prediction is. I'm not even going to go with a score. I'm going with the Rocky John. I'm going. You know what my prediction is for the Nets? Pain. Right? Pain. I don't think the Nets have anything for the Sixers. I think it's going to be a nice. I'll give the Nets credit. Maybe they'll win 1 in Brooklyn, but I think it's a gentleman's sweep. But just
he dies.
Yeah, just for tonight. What do you guys think? Let's do a prediction for tonight. What do you guys think? Are we sweating this game, or do you think it's a nice rock and chair ride?
Nah. Sixers in 5.
They had no answer for Embiid. Their answer is double teaming him, and look what happened. They have nobody to stop Embiid in the middle. So, like you said, I don't. Maybe they'll sneak one. Maybe they'll get hot in the threes, shooting threes in Brooklyn, and steal a game. Maybe, but nah, we're too dominant for them to hang with us. So.
I like to see an unsung hero tonight. You know what I mean? McDaniels, Melton, and then go to Brooklyn, say see you later.
Yeah, now I will say this. I mean, I think the Sixers will pull away in the end. The first half to maybe 3 quarters might be a little nipping, because you've got to figure the Nets are going to be as desperate as all get out. You know what I mean? Because they know they can't. They know they can't go down 2-0. They're not good enough. Even though they're going to Brooklyn, they're not good enough to beat the Sixers 4 out of 5. So this is about as close to a must-win game for the Nets as you can see. So they're gonna pull out a lot of the stops, but I still think the Sixers win. I think the line's 10. I don't know if I bet the game, but I think I like the Sixers. Sixers minus 10. I think the Sixers are going to win.
Yeah.
Pat Bernard,
keep the foot on the throat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't let off.
Pat Bernard with he said, "Is there any trips?" I guess he's talking about Philly sports trips. Is there any trips to the Blue Oyster for Mike Lauro?
They're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Man.
Well,
I don't know. That sounds like something Pat would organize. So, all right.
Man.
So that's game 2 predictions. How about what about for the series? Now let's see. By the time, if there's a game 5 is a week from tonight. So do you guys think there's a game 5, or do we already have this closed out by Saturday?
Way we play close out.
I say
close out.
I was going to say 5, but
Nah, I don't know. It's hard to sweep. I think it's going to be 5 games.
Never know. You could break out the brooms.
Yeah, hopefully, but it's hard to sweep. I'm going 5.
Oh yeah, 5 here.
Any other? Did anything else catch your guys' eye in the NBA playoffs? Like,
what about Kings knocking off Golden State?
Kings knock Suns. I mean,
Golden State. Yeah.
Since Paul said that, they look real deal, man. I like to see them knock off Golden State.
Yeah,
but you never know.
I mean, Sean, in weeks past, I mean, you were saying the Kings were, playing great ball, and who the heck knows? They could be a dark horse.
Yeah.
DeAndre Fox is good, man.
Yeah, Deontay Fox, Sabonis. I mean, they're all playing on 15 levels, man. They're passing the ball right, they're shooting right, hitting all the shots at the right time, But then, like we said earlier before the show, you got a lot of key injuries. Well, significant injuries, I should say. John Morant's wrist injury, Tyler Herro, broken hand, Giannis with a back confusion, like you said. That was pretty rough, And is there any other injury? Well, Jaylen Brown had that stitches that he cut his hand on a vase open up.
Right. Was he snitching?
No,
that's all right. That's all right.
He reopened the stitches that he had in his hand, but I mean, other than that, I don't know of any other injuries. But
we got one here. Here's Dave. Dave, play the song. Dave, play the song. Here we go. Hey fellas, I'm Sixers bound tonight. Have a great show. See ya. Go Sixers. I hear you. And then Mike Lauro, Heat beating the Bucks. That was definitely a surprise.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that's not necessarily a surprise, but that. I think that Knicks-Cavs series is a really good series, and
how about that?
I'll tell you, and I'll tell you, as a Philadelphia fan and a Sixers fan, it's a little disheartening to see 2 Villanova guys absolutely killing it for the New York Knicks. I mean, Jalen Brunson is playing great basketball. He looks like a leader out there. But what is it with the name Jalen? It's like all these Jalens are leaders.
Right.
Well, except for Jalen Rager, he was trash. Yeah. But I mean, Jalen Hurts. Yeah, there you go. Jalen Hurts, Jalen Brunson. They're killing it, and and Josh Hart, man, what a difference! What a difference, Josh Hart. My son's baseball coach is a Knicks fan. Really, really cool guy, and he was all excited yesterday. He's like, to put it in perspective about the Knicks, you realize that was their first road playoff win, I believe, since 1999. Can you imagine?
Wow, that was a strike year too.
Yeah, that was.
They lost to San Antonio that year.
Not only on the Knicks too, you got Bridges on the Nets. So.
I know. Well, the Sixers have no one to blame for that but themselves. I mean, that was Brett Brown. That was Brett Brown. I like Zaire. You know what I mean? But they did that for the Miami pick, which I mean, it did get us Tobias Harris, but hindsight being 2020,
right?
Mikal is a stud, man.
Yeah.
That could be definitely one of the worst Sixers trades ever made.
True.
Well, unfortunately, there's a lengthy list of that. I mean, my God, I when I think of franchises,
Barkley.
Of franchises, exactly. Brad Doherty, Moses. Shoot, they made 2 of the worst trades they ever made in one day. They traded Doherty for Roy Hinson. They traded Moses for Jeff Rulin. Thanks.
And don't forget Cliff Robinson was thrown into that deal too.
And not the Cliff Robinson that went to UConn and played at Portland. No, this was a Cliff.
No,
this was the Cliff Robinson that probably was doing 80s coke somewhere. You know what I mean?
It was just announced. Jaren Jackson Jr. wins Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh wow! Okay.
Jaren Jackson. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Memphis, it's funny. So the Lakers got themselves in the playoff game. But with Steven Adams being out and John Morant getting banged up, I think the Lakers are going to win that series.
Yeah.
So Lakers,
possibility.
Yeah, Lakers. I think the Lakers move on, and then they play the winner of Sacramento and Golden State. Now that'll be really interesting. And then that Clippers and Suns game last night. I saw the end of that. Boy, that was an unbelievable game. You had Kawhi and KD were going back and forth. That was a hell of a game.
Right.
That's gonna be a good series, man. But yeah, man. You know what? Hey, look, there's a lot. Hey, let's be honest. These next few weeks. I mean, hey, we even have NHL. We even have NHL playoffs now. They're a little dead in this town, but NHL playoffs is always pretty cool. So you look at these next few weeks to a month. We got Sixers playoffs, NHL playoffs, Phillies hopefully righting the ship, and then of course the big day.
10 days.
Draft coming up, and we're all pumped at that. So, but anyway, we'll. Any other thoughts before we get out of here, fellas?
Let's go Sixers. Half hour. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Play the song.
Yeah, let's get ready for this game. I'm gonna have a little catch with my son before the game comes on. So let's get ready to get out of here. And hopefully by the time we talk next week, we've already beat these chumps and we're getting ready for Boston. And I'm telling you right now, if the Sixers beat Boston, I think the Sixers could beat anybody. I think Boston's the bugaboo. So let's get through it, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right,
Absolutely.
Go Sixers. Play the song, baby.
Yeah.
See you.
See you guys.